Urgent. Just in. Chicago Cubs have just made a decision that is set to send shockwaves through the fanbase ahead of another crucial chapter of the season. And you won't believe this. But before I give you all the details, Northside fan, go ahead and hit that like button. Here you're always the first to get the latest Chicago Cubs news. On a Monday marked by devastating news, major injuries and maximum pressure on the roster, the organization has decided to act once again. And this time, the veteran Josh Fleming is the one on the way out. Just before the clash against rivals the Chicago White Sox, the Cubs announced the release of the left-handed pitcher, in a move that sends a message impossible to ignore. The roster cleanout is happening right now, and apparently nobody's spot is guaranteed. For the fan who follows every move at Wrigley Field, this decision comes at an extremely delicate moment. The day had already been rocked by serious injuries involving Dansby Swanson and Edward Cabrera, increasing concerns about the options available to the team. And when many expected the front office to simply try to manage the problems, another stunning decision arrived. Josh Fleming is out. The lefty, with 6 years of Major League Baseball experience, joined the Cubs in July with a very clear mission: provide depth to the pitching staff and serve as an alternative if the team needed to call on its organizational depth. Fleming was no stranger to high-level baseball. Before putting on a Cubs uniform, he had already built a respectable career, including being part of the Tampa Bay Rays team that reached the World Series. But at this moment, experience apparently wasn't enough to guarantee his place. Fleming had been pitching for AAA Iowa while the organization continually evaluated its options and tried to find the best possible combination for the decisive stretch of the season. Now, however, the veteran has been given his marching orders. The front office decided to open up a spot and move on from Fleming at a time when every roster position within the Cubs organization could become crucial. And that is exactly what makes this decision so important. We're not simply talking about the departure of a pitcher who was playing in AAA. The move comes after a series of events that has put the Cubs roster under enormous pressure. The team needs to respond, it needs to find answers, and it needs to quickly determine who can genuinely contribute as the season enters its most demanding phase. After the demolition suffered against the Cardinals, the pressure increased even further. And now the organization appears to be responding with direct changes and very little room for sentiment. The message is strong: if you're not ready to help the major league club, your spot could be at risk. Of course, Fleming's release alone won't solve all of the Cubs' problems. It won't bring injured players back, erase the mistakes made recently, or guarantee victories in the games ahead. But it does show an approach that could be even more significant behind the scenes. The front office is willing to shake up the roster in an attempt to find solutions immediately. And that is something Cubs fans need to watch very closely. Because when a veteran with Major League experience and even World Series experience leaves the organization this way, the inevitable question emerges: who's next? That is the part that could leave Northside fans even more alert. The decision involving Fleming may simply be a one-off roster move, but it could also be interpreted as a sign that the Cubs are taking a much deeper look at their available pieces and searching for different alternatives for the remainder of the campaign. The club cannot afford to wait indefinitely for answers. Every series matters. Every inning matters. Every pitch can change the course of a game, and in such a tight season, a bad stretch can become extremely costly. That is why the matchup against the White Sox carries even more weight. The rivalry game arrives at exactly the moment when the Cubs need to show a response. Fans want answers after the latest news. They want to know how the team will survive these absences and, above all, whether these changes will be enough to get the Cubs back on track. And Fleming's release adds another layer of tension. There is no room for complacency anymore. The organization appears to be entering emergency mode, trying to reshape its pitching group and find players capable of producing when their number is called. For fans, that can be frightening, but it could also represent an attempt to turn things around before it's too late. Fleming is leaving the Cubs, but the discussion created by his departure is only beginning. Did the front office make the right move by prioritizing space for new options? Could the veteran's experience have been useful later in the season? Or is this release exactly the kind of move needed to refresh the roster and give opportunities to players who could be part of the team's immediate future? Those questions now belong to the fans. What cannot be denied is that the Cubs are making changes at an extremely sensitive point in the season. Major injuries, pressure for results, the need to strengthen the pitching staff, and now the departure of a veteran have created an explosive situation ahead of a rivalry game that was already important by nature. And there is one detail that makes this even more interesting. Fleming was only recently signed in July, and his time with the organization is ending just a short time later. That shows just how urgent the situation has become. The Cubs do not appear willing to keep players around simply because of their name, experience, or past record. The focus now is on finding players who can help. Those who are ready to contribute will get their opportunity. Those who aren't could quickly find themselves on the outside. The cleanout has begun, and nobody knows exactly where it will end. Now, the question is whether this decision will ultimately be remembered as just another roster move or as the first sign of a much bigger reshaping of the Cubs organization. The answer will begin to emerge on the field. Against the White Sox, the team will have an opportunity to show whether all these changes can produce a response. The fans will be watching every pitch, every decision, and every name that gets called upon. Because right now, the message coming out of Chicago appears to be simple and brutal. Nobody is safe, everyone is being evaluated, and every opportunity has to be taken. And now, I want to hear from you, Cubs fan. Do you agree with the Cubs releasing Fleming? Yes or no? I want to see what Cubs Nation thinks about this situation. Drop your answer in the comments below, and stay locked into the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss a thing that happens between now and the end of the season. And while Cubs fans were still trying to process the first bombshell of this Monday, an even more concerning piece of news has just hit Wrigley Field. The front office had already shown that it is not hesitating to make major changes to the roster, with the release of Josh Fleming making it clear that nobody is completely safe right now. But now the problem is no longer just an organizational decision. The Cubs have just taken a major blow on the field, and this time, the player involved is one of the team's pillars. And the news that no Chicago Cubs fan wanted to hear has just been confirmed. Dansby Swanson is out, and the problem is much bigger than simply missing a few games. The Cubs medical staff confirmed the shortstop's MRI results on Monday, a moderate to severe strain of the left oblique muscle, with an expected absence of 4 to 6 weeks. Stop for a moment and think about the size of this blow. The Cubs are entering a stage of the season where every win, every defensive play, and every detail can make a difference in the playoff race. The team needs to chase down the Brewers, is dealing with significant injury concerns, and will now have to face one of the most decisive stretches of the campaign without one of its key leaders both on and off the field. Swanson is officially on the injured list, and that completely changes the picture. For a while, the hope was that the problem could be managed with rest, treatment, and a few days away from the lineup. But the test results have put an end to that possibility. There is no more uncertainty. There is no more, let's wait and see. The diagnosis is confirmed, and one of the Cubs' biggest defensive strengths will be sidelined for a period that could reach 6 weeks. For such a tight season, 6 weeks can feel like an eternity. And perhaps the most frightening part is the timing of this injury. The Cubs are trying to cut down an approximately 5-game deficit to the Brewers and need to take advantage of every remaining opportunity to stay alive in the race. At the same time, the team is entering a stretch of games that demands maximum focus. And now Craig Counsell will have to find a solution at an extremely important position. How do you replace Dansby Swanson? That is the question echoing throughout Wrigley Field. Because we are not simply talking about a player who appears in the lineup every day. Swanson is a central piece of the defense, an experienced presence, and one of the important voices in the clubhouse. His influence does not show up only in the offensive statistics. The estimated 4 to 6 week timeline puts his return in an extremely delicate window. If his recovery is quick and everything goes according to plan, he could return close to the most important moment of the season. But any delay in the recovery process could turn his comeback into a race against the clock. That is why the medical staff will have an enormous role to play over the next few weeks. The goal cannot simply be to get Swanson back on the field as quickly as possible. A muscle injury like this requires caution. Rushing him back too soon could create an even bigger problem and put not only the remainder of the season at risk, but also the player's ability to perform at a high level. The fans want to see him back. But above all, they want to see him healthy. Meanwhile, his teammates will have to take on a responsibility that nobody expected to carry at this point in the season. The defense will have to be reorganized. Communication on the field will need to be adjusted. And the coaching staff will have to find a way to compensate for the absence of one of the team's key pillars. Northside fans know exactly what is at stake. It is not enough to simply win one series. It is not enough to have one good week. The Cubs need to build a consistent run of results if they want to remain in the race. And they will have to do it without Dansby Swanson. The shortstop's absence also puts enormous responsibility on the other leaders in the roster. Veterans will have to become louder voices. Younger players will need to grow quickly. And those who receive opportunities in Swanson's place will have a chance that could define their own seasons. Because in moments of crisis, someone always has to step up. Perhaps that is the only way to turn devastating news into an opportunity. The Cubs did not choose to lose Swanson at this moment. The injury simply happened. But now the franchise has to decide how it will respond. And that response could determine the future of the season. The matchup against the White Sox becomes even more important in this context. The team will take the field knowing that one of its most important defenders will be watching from the sidelines, while the fans wait for an immediate response. The season is not over. The playoff race remains open. But the road has become considerably more difficult. Dansby Swanson is officially sidelined for 4 to 6 weeks, and now the Cubs will have to survive without their defensive leader. And now I want you to answer this, Cubs fan. Will the team be able to hold on until Swanson returns? Yes or no? Because if the team can weather this storm, get its injured players back and reach the final stretch intact, the return of number 7 could provide a massive boost precisely when the pressure is at its highest. Leave your answer in the comments and tell me why you think that way. I love hearing what Cubs fans have to say. And if you want to stay one step ahead of the biggest news, make sure you subscribe to the channel.